Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Retire Well, where we're committed to building better lives. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and I'm joined in the studio by the co-founder of Citizen Advisory Group, Kevin Bucher, and financial advisor, Sean O'Drobenak. We've got a great show for you today. We are going to be tackling one of the top questions that the team of Citizen Advisory Group receives a fair amount of the time, which is, should I roll over my 401k to an IRA? So if you've ever asked yourself that question, or you're wondering if you should be asking yourself that question, you're definitely not going to want to miss today's show. Kevin, Sean, great to be here with both of you. How are you this week?
Great week, great time to be here.
Yes. Sean, how are you?
Doing awesome. Thanks for having us. Good seeing you.
Oh, it's good to see you too. I always enjoy our chats, and I love that you stay on the pulse of what the common questions and concerns are that folks have in this area. And I know this is a question you guys get a lot, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, so all right, so let's go into it. We're tackling it again. The 401k, should you roll yours over into an IRA? Here's the reality. Back when 401ks were created in 1978, that really shifted the responsibility of retirement off of employers who traditionally had had pensions up to that point in time onto the employee. And it's up to you as the holder of a 401k, and maybe for you it's a 403b, a 457, a TSP, whatever type of workplace retirement plan you may have. It's up to you to know how to invest that money, what to do with it, and then most importantly, how to turn that into retirement income. And it gets very complicated. This is why a lot of folks want to know if they should be rolling over that plan into their own IRA. So let's, we want to always provide a very fair and balanced discussion on the show. There's pros and cons. Let's start with the positives of these 401k accounts before we dive into some of the limitations.
Absolutely. The 401k isn't necessarily a good or a bad vehicle, right? It's what we have. It's a tool. It's a vehicle that we are using. As you stated, the company's really shifted and offloaded that defined benefit plan, that pension plan, and opened these 401ks, 403bs, 457s, right? So these particular plans, each of them are going to be a little unique in their own sense, but they also have some, characteristics that we got to understand. First and foremost, maybe there's a company match. Some companies are going to give 1%, 2%, 3% without your contribution. Some may say whatever you give will match up to a certain degree. Each one of these plans are going to have their own rules, so we really need to understand it, right? So that's the first component. This is essentially free money that we have to understand. The second component is that what we're seeing now is that there's a lot of Roth options. So there's a Roth 401k, or there's the traditional route. So with the traditional route, you're going to get a tax deduction in that given year. But if we wanted to do the Roth, well, we're just going to pay the tax on that portion of the money in this particular year, then that's going to grow tax-free, right? So there's not one that's better, like the Roth versus the traditional. It's just what we have, right? So there's some tax opportunities within these plans. And then the third component is that there's a pretty high contribution limit. So if you're under the age of 50, you can contribute up to $23,500 now. And if you're over the age of 50, that gives you another $7,500 of catch-up contributions. So for a total of $31,000 we can actually use inside of these particular plans. And I think what's actually the fourth component, what's unique about these is that if we were to separate service prior to 59 and a half, we can actually access some of these funds out of the 401k after the age of 55. So if we separate it from service after 55, but prior to 59 and a half, we can go and get some of these funds out without that 10% penalty that some other plans have some rules around.
Yes, and we're going to get into the benefits of why you may want to do that. But Kevin, I know you want to speak to this as well.
Yeah, so when we look at the matching contribution, there's certainly a nice benefit, but it's not like employers just all of a sudden out of the goodness of their hearts decided to start giving money to their employees to these. It's really in replacement of the old defined benefit plans. So traditionally the employer was putting money into the defined benefit pension plan direction. And when the advent of the 401k happened, employers saw that as an opportunity to go a different direction with where they were putting those dollars. And really, it was shifting the responsibility from the employer to the employee. So we saw that shift. And then the other thing I wanted to just point out was piggybacking off of the tax choice. So it's one of the bigger choices in regards to your retirement savings. Is are you looking to save money on a tax deferred basis where you're waiting to pay the tax on your savings dollars, or are you willing to pay the taxes up front so that you're getting tax-free growth and then tax-free privileges later? So it's one of the bigger decisions, and I don't think that it's given a lot of consideration. And from our perspective, it's something we'd want to be very tactical about to make sure that we're deducting away as much of the income as we need to maybe avoid some of the higher tax brackets, but we're also starting to build some tax-free assets for later and building out some tax diversification.
Yes, and this is why you all have created this awesome resource, mytaxbilltest.com. Why don't you explain what this resource is, and then we'll walk our viewers through how to use it.
Yeah, well, it's a really, it's a pretty cool tool because it really is a very quick, easy assessment that will show what your lifetime tax liability looks like if you choose to continue to defer the taxes and wait to pay the taxes at a later date. So there's a few very simple inputs that you have to put in, like your age, your current pre-tax account balance, so that would be the traditional 401k, traditional IRA, what your tax rate's going to be when you withdraw these funds, and what your expected earnings rate on these funds. So you put in a few inputs, it will then calculate what your lifetime tax liability is going to be on this account, assuming that you just follow the rules that the IRS has set for you. So there's certain withdrawal requirements that are mandated within the tax code. So if you just follow their rules, this is going to do a very quick calculation of how much tax you're going to pay over your lifetime.
Yes, and it is eye-opening for sure when folks see that side-by-side comparison. When we come back from the break, I know we'll walk our viewers through exactly how to utilize that tool. But how does what we've talked about so far fit into what you're able to offer viewers in the form of a complimentary retirement checkpoint review?
Well, so yeah, you know, when you look at somebody's 401k in today's world, it typically is going to be probably the largest retirement resource you have from an account standpoint. Now, I would definitely argue that Social Security is a large retirement resource, but in regards to your accounts, your 401k is probably the largest account that you have, or certainly one of the larger accounts you have. So when we're looking at the retirement checkpoint review, it's certainly going to be one of the main considerations to make sure that we're getting the most out of the 401k options that you have, and that we're making the right tax choice. So that checkpoint review is going to be an assessment of where are you today and where are you trying to go in the future, and then how can we make improvements across the 5 financial planning areas to be more efficient and to get you where you're trying to go in the most efficient and powerful way possible. So that is going to be an assessment of your investment strategy, your retirement plan and retirement income strategy, taxes, your insurance, and your legacy and estate plan. We're going to take a look at where you're at today and how can we enhance that moving forward.
Wonderful. Well, Kevin, Sean, I know we've got a lot more to get to on this discussion of should someone roll over their 401k, but if this is something that you need help with, if you would like to have an analysis of whatever type of workplace retirement plan you currently have, we know that this is an important vehicle to save for your retirement. Don't you want to have the confidence knowing that you are utilizing it correctly for you? The team of Citizen Advisory Group would love to be able to analyze that for you as part of the complimentary retirement checkpoint review. 866-630-1675 is the number to call to claim yours, or if you'd rather connect online, simply click that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
Thank you for using Citizen Advisory Group's Retirement Tax Projection Calculator at mytaxbilltest.com. Now that you've seen your potential future tax liability, you might be wondering how those numbers were calculated and what they mean for your retirement plan. It's important to understand that this calculator is a high-level tool designed to highlight the significant role income taxes could play in your retirement without proactive planning. The calculations are limited to the inputs provided and assume both a fixed rate of return on your investments and a fixed tax rate on every dollar distributed from your pre-taxed accounts. Real-world scenarios often involve variable rates and additional complexities that require personalized strategies. As you've seen from your personalized results,
the tax implications for your retirement savings can be substantial. Now that you have this initial projection, the next step is to explore potential strategies to reduce your tax burden. Our advisors at Citizen Advisory Group can analyze your complete financial picture and develop customized, tax-efficient withdrawal strategies that the calculator alone can't provide. Schedule your personal tax review meeting today by calling the number below.
Welcome back to Retire Well. I'm Kristin Oakley here with both Kevin and Sean from Citizen Advisory Group, and we're so glad that you're joining us today. If you're just tuning in, we are tackling the big question that the team of Citizen Advisory Group get quite often, which is, should I go ahead and roll over my 401k into an IRA? And again, for those of you watching, we know that some of you have 401ks, some of you have 403bs, 457s, TSPs. This conversation applies to whatever type of workplace retirement plan you may have as a tool to save for your retirement. We want to go back and share with you again, especially if you're just tuning in, this awesome resource that you can access called mytaxbilltest.com. So again, why don't you just quickly give an overview of what this is going to do, and then I'll walk folks through, and we have some graphics to show you so you know exactly how to utilize the tool.
Yeah, so I think maybe what makes sense is to talk about what the intent of this tool is. And the intent is to kind of show you how much tax you are subject to over the course of your lifetime if you continue to play by the IRS's rules in regards to your retirement accounts. So it's going to be a pretty eye-opening result when you put in your numbers to this. But there are alternatives to this. So this is meant to start the conversation about how you can be more proactive. And then we have this quick little slideshow that gives a demonstration of that.
Yep.
But yeah, that is the intent. Let's take a look at what your long-term tax liability is, and now let's talk about strategies to get out in front of that.
For sure, because awareness is the first step. So here's the deal. We know your smartphone is sitting right there. We encourage you to pick it up. You can access this tool in one of two ways. Simply go to mytaxbilltest.com, or you can scan that QR code. That will take you there as well. And here is what you're going to see. It's going to take you to this landing page. You'll put in some basic information, no strings attached, your name, your current age, because this tool is actually going to calculate for you your estimated tax bill throughout the rest of your life. You'll also put in the email address that you want your complimentary report sent to, and then how much money you have saved up in tax deferred accounts. So again, for you, that could be a traditional 401k, traditional 403b, traditional IRA, things of that nature. You'll notice there's two little sliders down there at the bottom that you can play around and adjust. One is your assumed tax liability. The other is the assumed growth rate on that tax deferred bucket of money. Then once you click submit, two things are going to happen. First, you're instantly going to see a side-by-side comparison between the government's tax plan for you there on the left, if you do nothing, versus how much less you could pay in tax on the right-hand side if you enact some of these tax saving strategies that we're going to be talking about throughout the rest of today's show. But then you're also going to receive a detailed 4-page report sent to you. Again, this is completely complimentary. This is a screenshot of one page of that report, which will show you the breakdown of the numbers. And it's just mind-blowing when you can see that side-by-side comparison. You can't unsee that difference, right?
And it's not just your tax liability. It's important to point out it's also calculating what the tax liability is going to be with the assets that are left in the account upon your passing. And because those taxes are still going to pass on to your heirs inside of the traditional tax deferred accounts.
Yes, for sure. So awareness is that first step. And I know you've had a lot of folks using this report, printing it off and bringing it to you, right, Sean? I mean, aren't they blown away when they see those numbers?
Well, it's really fascinating and eye-opening when clients go to mytaxbilltest.com and they look at it, and they actually, you can put down on paper and see, is this really going to happen, right? Is this what this actually means with this tool? And you know, it really brings clarity to their current situation, because most of the time clients are looking at this number and they just don't know what it is, right? It's a number, and what matters to them, it's very emotional to them, and they want that number to get larger, right? They just want it to get bigger because they feel that if it's larger, it just feels better.
Yes.
And that's probably true to a degree, but that's not all of your money, right? Right? That especially if it's in that 401k or that IRA, that's your money minus taxes.
Yep.
So we really have to understand what are the tax implications of this vehicle, this 401k, this IRA. What is that going to look like in the future? And how do we have a coordinated structure and a coordinated plan around that?
For
and
sure.
this tax bill test really just, it brings some clarity to how we can de-tax this situation.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and we know that the majority of Americans have the bulk of their wealth saved up in tax-deferred workplace retirement plans like 401ks and traditional IRAs. But again, we are talking today about should someone move over their 401k, roll it over into an IRA. So outside of the tax problem, what are some of the other limitations that can occur when folks just leave their money in these workplace retirement plans?
Yeah, some of the limitations are that they have limited investment options, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a good vehicle, right? There's options, but they're usually subject to about 15 to 20, maybe 25 different options. So, and most of those are going to be a target date fund. And so what do people do when they log in and they get a new employer and they get this new opportunity through the 401k? Well, they're saying, okay, I'm 40, I'm going to retire at this date. Well, I'm just going to pick that one because it's the easiest thing to do. It's the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. And while they're there, retirement's important, but what's important to them at that time is getting this paperwork filled out, getting started with the job and the thing and the career, the vocation that they love. And sometimes they just kind of forget about the retirement plan, right? Yep. So you're going to have some limited options, and it's usually an easy click of a button for a target date fund. The second component of that is, these limited funds are also probably going to be limited in the sector, meaning you may have 12 funds, but of those 12, 3 of them are in a large cap position. So that really shrinks your diversification, okay? And then I would say the third component to that is these are the employer's resources. This is an employer plan. So what does that mean? That means that if the employer doesn't necessarily like this particular fund or vehicle or company, well, they have the option to choose to say, we're no longer going to use this company, we're going to go with this company. And that's fine. That's the employer's prerogative, but the employee really loses control over that. And then the fourth component is that sometimes these funds often have potentially higher internal expense ratios.
Yes.
Right?
None of this is getting managed for free. That's a shock to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, a lot of people say, well, I don't pay for my investments, or I don't pay for anything in my 401k. And to a degree, that's true, but there's also, there's an expense ratio coming out of these particular funds that is, right, that we can educate clients on.
Yep, yeah, for sure. And why would you say someone needs to care about having more options at their disposal? Because obviously the easy thing is to just leave that money in that account, set it, forget it, right? Why do folks need to understand why that's not necessarily the best case scenario for them?
It's a great question because I think we would appreciate simple. And I think people oftentimes are looking for something that's simple.
Yep.
And so it might be on the surface, it might seem like if I only have a few options to pick from, that's simple. But simple doesn't always mean efficient, right? So we do want things to be simple and to have common sense, but we need to have enough investment options that we can properly build out an investment portfolio that's targeting and hitting the appropriate asset classes. So, for example, if someone is looking to get exposure to gold or silver within the 401k plan, we don't typically see a whole lot of options to do that inside of a 401k. So alternative investments like that are usually not going to be that prevalent in the 401k. The other thing that I typically see in a 401k is that there's usually not a lot of very good poor choice of words. There's not usually a lot of choices around fixed income options or lower risk investment options inside the 401k. So if you're looking to take on less risk, you might not find some of those fixed interest earning options that you would find outside of that. So we appreciate simple, we want simple, but we also need to have enough options to build out the portfolio properly to get the allocation to the different types of investments that you need.
I think as you were talking, the best way to think about it is if you leave that money in that workplace retirement plan, it's a much more cookie cutter approach, right? You're not able to create the customization, the personalization to you and your situation and what could possibly be better for you.
Right? I think that is a great way to sum that up is, an employer-sponsored 401k plan or 403b plan or whatever it is really geared around the group. It's trying to put forth solutions that will work for the group. But as you get closer to retirement in particular, we really have to start putting forth solutions that are, yeah, they might be okay for the group, but we really want individualized solutions to provide the outcomes that our clients are looking for. So that is a very good distinction, that 401k plan was meant to serve the needs of a larger group of people. And we really care about that one individual we're sitting across the table from, and we want to put forth the right solution for them in their situation.
For sure. So what is the solution for folks?
Man, that's a great question, right? The solution is there's different ways to slice that. It really comes down to the client. What is the client's goal? What are they looking to accomplish? If we leave the funds inside of these 401ks, like Kevin said, there's limited options. You may not have international diversification, right? You may only have sector-specific investments, and you may not even have options to low-cost funds. Well, if I can have a fund and they both perform about the same, but one of them is 2 or 3 or 4 times the cost, well, what is that impacting? That's impacting the long-term growth of your money. I mean, let's just kind of give it an example. If we have a $500,000 account and we are able to save about a 1% difference, whether we're using different funds. Well, you take 1% difference, multiply that over 30 years, well, you're looking at about $150,000 of savings in just fund selection. I mean, that's a significant dollar amount. My question is, would you rather overpay for a fund or maybe use that money to go do something that you've always wanted to do, right? It's just, it's little things like that. We're talking about really small numbers, but extrapolated over a long period of time, they equate to pretty large numbers.
For sure. And that's the reality, is that the only way to figure out what could potentially be better for you and individualized for you is by you having a personalized plan mapped out for you. And really the starting point of that plan is receiving your very own complimentary retirement checkpoint review. Again, this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how the team of Citizen Advisory Group can help and serve you. So if that's something that you would like to have done, we encourage you to reach out. You can do so by calling 866-630-1675, or again, if you'd rather connect online, simply scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
There's no shortage of opinions about annuities. Some people love them, others hate them. But here's what matters. The right annuity in the right situation can solve very specific retirement challenges. Whether it's guaranteed income, market protection, or legacy planning, different annuities are built to serve different purposes. The problem is, too many people own annuities that no longer match their goals, or worse, never did. Some have high fees, others come with outdated features, and too often, people buy them without understanding what they're getting. If you've been holding on to an annuity for years, or if you're not sure exactly what you have or how it works, now is the time to take a second look. Our complimentary annuity review can help you understand what you own, what it's doing for you, and whether something better is available in today's market. Refinance your annuity today and make sure it's working for you, not against you.
Did you know your retirement isn't entirely yours? That's right, your 401k, IRA, or pension is actually shared with Uncle Sam. And when it's time to withdraw, he'll be waiting for his cut in taxes. Want to know how much you may owe? Try our easy-to-use tax calculator to find out. Just scan the QR code or visit mytaxbilltest.com.
Welcome back to Retire Well, where today we are tackling the question of should you roll over your 401k or whatever type of workplace retirement plan you may have into an IRA. And I want to go back to the solution that we were talking about before, to this issue of, if you leave that money behind, there's several issues with leaving money behind in a workplace retirement plan. So there's two options for a lot of folks. There's the rollover and the in-service distribution. So let's start with the rollover. Can you paint that picture of what that process actually looks like? Because you do this for folks all the time.
Oh, all the time, right? And I think one of the common misconceptions in this is that, well, is that going to cause me some taxation? And if you were to physically take it, yes, you're going to get taxed on that distribution. But what we're doing is we're going to do a rollover. So the first thing we have to do is we have to understand what are the options within the 401k. There's a lot of different rules around them. Some allow full, some allow partial, some allow you got to keep X amount in the plan until you're actually separated from service. But we are able to do a rollover, and if we can do that, we should absolutely take advantage of that rollover.
Okay, so that's the rollover option, which is available if you leave behind, you leave a previous place of employment, you can then roll that money over, and done correctly, which is what you help people do. It's called a trustee-to-trustee transfer, no tax implications. Let's talk about in-service distributions, because that's a little bit different.
Yes, so very similar. So what we were talking about before, well, before I get to that answer, I mean, there's certain things you should consider before you go to just automatically do the rollover, right? So sometimes 401ks actually have investment choices that you can't get outside of the plan. So maybe there's an investment inside of the plan that you prefer. Well, that would be a reason to leave some of the money there. Or perhaps, as we talked about earlier, you could be retiring after the age of 55, but you're not quite that magical 59 and a half. Well, that gives you some withdrawal privileges without being subject to penalty. So there are reasons that you need to evaluate whether doing any type of a rollover makes sense. But I think oftentimes people are very surprised that even if they're still actively employed and still contributing to the plan, most plans, now this is plan specific, most plans do allow what's called a in-service rollover. You have to be the age of 59 and a half, and it allows you to move that employer-sponsored retirement account over into an IRA. And why would you do that? Well, because you're opening up all of the investment choices that are available out there in the marketplace, and you can really put forth solutions that are more based to your individual needs as opposed to fitting into the overall employer group plan.
And that allows folks, as they're approaching that retirement red zone, to maybe do different things with that money altogether, right?
Yeah, we can look at options like some of the alternatives that I mentioned earlier. We can take some of the risk off the table by using some insurance solutions. So there's just so much that can be done in that window. So we would really encourage people to take advantage of the opportunity to see what your choices are with your 401k so that you can put yourself and your family in the best position for your financial futures.
For sure. Well, Kevin, Sean, thank you so much. I know there's so much more that we didn't even get to on this important subject. We kind of scratched the surface, but the best thing that you can do is sit down in the privacy of the offices of Citizen Advisory Group in the financial planning environment and see what all this could mean for you. But it starts with you picking up the phone and calling to schedule your complimentary retirement checkpoint review. 866-630-1675 is that number to call, or again, you're welcome to click that QR code and that will get you connected as well. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Retire Well.